Have you ever picked up a book and felt like it was watching you back? Like the words on the page weren't just telling a story, they were reading your very soul. Imagine the chill running down your spine when a simple novel suddenly feels less like fiction and more like a reflection of your darkest fears. It's a restless Friday night in the heart of New York City. The glow from the streetlights filters in softly through half-closed blinds, casting uneasy shadows across a small, cluttered apartment. Mark, a typical 30-something with a routine 9-to-5 job, sits alone amid the quiet hum of the city that never truly sleeps. His TV is off, his phone silent, and the weight of insomnia presses down heavier than the night. Hoping for distraction, Mark reaches for an old, forgotten book resting on his shelf, a relic he snagged from a yard sale earlier that week. The novel's cover is cracked and weathered so badly the title is nearly illegible, but something about this dusty, neglected book feels oddly magnetic. As he flips open the pages, a strange feeling settles over him, like the story he's about to read is less about fiction and more about a destiny he can't escape. The moment Mark opened the book, a sudden heaviness filled the air around him, like the thick, suffocating silence that falls just before a storm breaks. The faint sound of rain tapping against the window seemed to grow louder, mingling with the distant wail of sirens and the ever-present hum of New York City nightlife. He leaned in closer to the yellowed pages, where the first line immediately sent a shock through him. A man sits alone somewhere in Manhattan reading these very words. Mark's breath caught. He smirked nervously, chalking it up to coincidence, but unease had already settled deep in his chest. Turning the page, he was struck by how the novel unspooled the details of his exact life with unnerving precision. The small yet cozy layout of his cramped apartment, the cracked leather of his worn-out armchair, the faded photo of his late parents resting silently on the nightstand, all painted with chilling accuracy. The creaky radiator sputtered somewhere in the background, a sound the book described in painstaking detail, along with the constant drone of traffic outside his window, taxis honking, distant footsteps on the sidewalk, the occasional siren wailing through. Every paragraph felt less like fiction and more like a mirror reflecting his own memories, his fears. As the room grew darker and the clock hands edged past midnight, the atmosphere shifted palpably. The comforting silence now felt like a trap, pressing in from every corner. Mark's ears caught the faintest creak of a floorboard behind him, just the softest sound, like a whisper against the floor. The dry, brittle rustle of paper stirred somewhere close, as if something unseen was moving right beside him. He glanced nervously toward the shadows, heart starting to race, but when he returned to the book, the next line seemed to mock his fear. He thinks he's alone. He's wrong. A cold shiver ran down his spine, crawling like ice through his veins. He swallowed hard, hands trembling slightly, but he couldn't stop reading now. Page after page, the words seemed to catch up with him in real time. When he coughed, a sudden tickle in his throat, the book described, almost clinically, a sharp cough breaks the silence. When he stood up to check the door, hesitant but compelled, his every move was narrated. He checks the lock, though he never usually does. Mark fumbled for his phone to call a friend, desperate for reassurance, but the screen stayed pitch black, dead battery or something worse. The book didn't leave him guessing. The call will fail, and the silence will spread. Panic surged, but curiosity pushed him on. He flipped several pages ahead, only to find blank white sheets staring back at him, except for one chilling phrase scribbled in scratchy handwriting at the very end. At 1:12 a.m., the watcher arrives. His eyes shot to the clock on the wall. It was 1:05 a.m. Suddenly, the silence shattered with a noise so subtle but bone-chilling, Mark froze. From somewhere down the hallway came a slow, dragging step. Not a hurried pace, but deliberate, heavy, and unhurried, like something, or someone, was making their way closer, inch by agonizing inch. His mind scrambled. It could be anything, right? just the building settling, or a neighbor coming home late. He wanted to dismiss it, shake it off as just another late-night sound in a city that never sleeps. But deep inside, his gut screamed that this was different. Something was wrong. With shaking hands, Mark bolted the door, turning the lock with a loud click that suddenly sounded deafening in the quiet apartment. He glanced down and noticed the novel, still open on the coffee table. Pages fluttered slightly like a tiny breeze skimmed across them, though the air was still. Then, as if the book itself was alive, new text slowly began to reveal itself on the page, words forming where before there had been none. The door is locked, but doors can only stop the living. A cold wave swept through the room. The temperature dropped sharply. Mark's breath hitched and suddenly fogged in the air before him, each exhale an icy cloud swallowed by darkness. The shadows cast by the faint candlelight on the walls began to ripple and stretch like liquid, taking on shapes just at the edge of his vision. Was someone creeping closer, or was the darkness itself alive and breathing? The book trembled violently, as if shaken by an invisible hand. The words on the page began rearranging themselves, twisting into a new, horrifying message. The story ends when you look behind you. Mark's pulse slammed against his ribs. His lungs contracted, struggling for air. Every instinct screamed that he should run, dart away from whatever was waiting for him, but his legs no longer obeyed. He stood frozen in place, rooted to the spot by paralyzing fear. Slowly, terrifyingly slow, he turned his head, inch by inch, toward the darkness looming behind him. And there it was, a presence thicker than the air around it, cold and crushing. It pressed into his skin, prickling like ice. Whatever it was watching him, waiting, patient as death itself. Summoning the last frayed thread of courage, Mark spun all the way around. Only then, just as his eyes adjusted to the blackness, the lights snapped off entirely. Pitch black swallowed the room, erasing everything but the pounding in his ears. Then, barely more than a whisper in the pitch, a voice spoke his name. Soft, unnatural, distorted, yet eerily familiar. The name echoed, dragging itself through the air like a shadowy promise. Mark screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the silence that followed. When morning came, the city outside continued its relentless rhythm, completely unaware. The door to Mark's apartment sat open, creaking softly in the breeze. Inside, the book lay closed on the coffee table, perfectly undisturbed, except for one final, chilling detail. The inscription inside the front cover had changed. Now, in freshly scrawled ink, a new name awaited the next reader, Mark's name. Some books are better left unopened, because some stories are desperate to be told, and a few will claim a reader no matter what. If you've made it this far, ask yourself, would you dare to turn the page? Thanks for joining me on this haunting journey into the unknown. If this story has left you with lingering chills, if it made your nerves tighten or your skin crawl, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button. New stories like this come every week. True tales of horror that'll keep you awake at night, wondering what might exist just beyond your doorway. Remember, some of the scariest stories are the ones that could happen to you. So, stay cautious, stay curious, but most of all, stay safe. Because next time you pick up a book or hear a strange noise in the dark, it might just be more than a story, that it could be your reality.